This story begins with a little phrase taken from The Little Prince, "I want to hate." A line that feels symbolic, a reminder that sometimes you just stay silent to avoid conflict, yet end up actually living in the conflict because of that silence. I mentioned this from the beginning since it will come up later in this case. It's important. And for some people, it really carries meaning. Now let's go to the day that everything happened, February 8th. By late afternoon, Sylvia's mother started to feel a little uneasy. She had been calling her daughter repeatedly, but Sylvia wasn't answering, and this is very weird. From what she said, she was calling the landline and also her phone, but there was no response on any of them. This was unusual for her, so she started to worry. Around 9 p.m., Sylvia's two children came back home, suddenly calling her grandmother. Panic stricken, they told her that someone had kidnapped them. The children's grandmother, confused and terrified, immediately alerted all Sylvia's side of the family. At the same time, a group of Guardia Civil, which is the Spanish police, headed toward the house, located in the Monte Cosio in Castro Urdiales. Inside the home, another team of Guardia Civiles were in there, and they were already talking to Sylvia's husband. They did search the house very thoroughly, trying to understand what was happening, because something felt a little wrong in this case. Things didn't really add up, and the police officers, they were catching up. Welcome back to another Beauty and Crime Sunday with me, in which I do my skincare while I talk about the chilling cases I found this week. And today we're going to Spain, to Castro Urdiales specifically. And this is a case that it's very known in Spain. It wasn't that long ago, so people know about it, and there is a lot of topics in this case that are quite interesting. So grab your skincare and let's actually start with the story. So when it became clear that Sylvia wasn't really inside the house, officers decided to check around the property and not only in the house. And they headed toward a very nearby park. And it was there, inside a already parked car, that they found a horrific scene. Inside the vehicle was the lifeless body of Sylvia. According to very early reports, Sylvia was missing some items of clothing. A plastic bag had been placed over her head, and inside the bag there was a significant amount of blood. Also, her hands had been tied. Even at first glance, it was clear that there was no way she could have survived this. Sylvia had suffered multiple puncture wounds, especially around the neck, and it's believed one of the hits struck an artery, which would kill her. Some reports say that there were a lot of stab-like injuries. Others mention one single puncture in the same area. On top of that, she had a couple more injuries, one blow to her head, another one to the back of the neck, and another one to her right shoulder blade. And as I mentioned before, the police were already saying this feels a little weird. There are things that are not matching. Officers did spend hours inside the home, and it didn't really take them long to find something alarming. Blood traces everywhere. It became clear that it was most likely that Sylvia actually lost her life inside the house and then was dragged to the car where she was later found. Whoever did this tried to clean up the blood, but despite the efforts, enough remained to actually expose them. Meanwhile, investigators were trying to locate Sylvia's children. They asked classmates of John, the oldest kid, if they knew where the siblings could be hiding, but no one had answers. The police had already put the missing child protocol, and they were treating the situation with a lot of urgency. Fortunately, a few minutes later, the officers were able to locate the children. Now, they were hiding in a park 30 minutes away from the actual family house. The park is known as Parque Cotolino, and when authorities found them, the entire town became shocked. Not only because Sylvia's death, but because of the questions involving the children in this case. Back at the house, police continued tracing the blood from the kitchen all the way to the garage. As I mentioned earlier, they did clean up the kitchen and the stairs, trying to erase evidence, but there was still some blood trails. The thing was that the weapon had still not been found, but the lead-in theory is that it was probably one of the kitchen knives, which kind of makes sense if you consider that everything seems to have happened or started in the kitchen. But investigators said it could have been a knife, a screwdriver, or another very sharp house tool. They simply don't know. But people that knew the family had started also talking about it. According to Sylvia's relatives, the children's grandmother was extremely strict about their schooling. She wanted them to get good grades. And what has been reported about this was that both children were doing pretty good at school. The mayor, Susana Herran, also commented on this. I'm not entirely sure what her relationship was with the family, but she did tell the press that the children were very well behaved all the time. Not problematic at all. It seems she knew Sylvia and her family closely enough to actually be talking about those things with certainty. And this is where the controversial nature of Spain's juvenile law comes in, which there is in many countries, so it's not only in Spain. Spain's juvenile system can be a little frustrating because of its limitations, honestly. Under Spanish juvenile law, the maximum a kid can have for anything, it's 9 years. And at this stage, the only measure being applied in the case was 6 months in a detention center for the older kid, with the possibility of extending it for another 3 months depending on how the investigation progresses. And this measure had already been approved by the first judge, meaning it was almost certain that he would go to juvenile detention center. So given all of this, the problem is that the possible sentence for these minors are extremely limited, regardless of the brutality of the actual crime. Once again, the law really focuses on the age of the perpetrators, not really the severity of the act. Friends, neighbors, and also members of the church had shared couple stories about Sylvia also. Everyone described her as an exceptional person, always ready to help, always very present in everyone's life. She attended church every single week with her husband and her children. The family really became active members of the church since the moment that the children were adopted. A woman named Fatima that worked in that church actually talked about this, and she said that one day she had seen Sylvia on the Friday before she was killed, and she said that everything seemed normal. Nothing unusual, nothing concerning. Fatima had given catechesis to John, the older child, and she described him as an excellent child. And in her eyes, they had never been any red flags. In the days that followed, several journalists began speaking with parents of children who attended school with both kids. According to some of the parents, John was seen as a very shy boy, very extremely shy. A few classmates also said that allegedly he had been subjected to bullying by some girls in his class, specifically teasing him about his sexual orientation, or probably rather their assumption about it, because we don't know, this is all alleged. They reportedly mocked him on the assumptions that they had about him, about his orientation, or what they assumed was the mother's influence on him. Whether these rumors were really true or really exaggerated, well, we will never know, it's not clear. But the possibility now is on the table, And investigators did take it into account just to see motive and theories. But at that moment, it was all speculation. Could it be that these children were raised in a home where they were overprotected, disciplined maybe too harshly, or kept in a bubble? Maybe. Could it be that maybe emotional development was impacted by something happening inside the household? Also possible. Could it be that the children took their mother's life without any reason for it, or for a motive completely irrational? That is also another possibility. We simply don't know because they haven't talked about it. These theories are the early lines of the investigation, and it's all speculation, and I don't think we will know because since they are kids, we don't even know their faces for sure. We just know their age and their names, but nothing else. So I don't think they will come up saying, yes, I did it because of this. I don't think that will happen. So speculation, and we will never know. Well, that is all for today. It was a very short one, but a little different than what we used to. But well, thank you for watching. Always want to hear what you think about these cases, and if you want to know about other ones that I might not know about. So always drop your theories and recommendation in the comments, and do your skincare. And if you don't end up like a glazed donut at the end of it, you're not doing it right. Bye bye.